Okay, this is a short presentation about the CRAP principles: contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. It's just basic principles that will help you in designing documents, especially when you start including visuals, but it has to do with placement of items on a page and having enough white space and making it easy for your reader to move through the document. The CRAP principles are from the Non-Designer's Web Book by Robin Williams and John Toll. Contrast, repetition, alignment, proximity. Contrast. This is what allows you to control where a reader's eyes go. Select primary and secondary focal points in your document. Use bold, size, italics, color, and color rhetorically in order to shape meaning for your reader and make it easy for them to move through the document. Contrast and color should be reassuring and attractive, but not jarring. The principle of contrast states that if two items are not exactly the same, then make them different. In order for contrast to be effective, it must be strong. Strong contrast adds visual interest to a page and makes it more attractive to the reader's eye. Contrast helps to organize your information. Use contrast in your titles, heads, and subheads and page segments to make it easier for the reader to glance at the page and understand what is going on. The easiest way to add interesting contrast is with typeface, but you can also add contrast with rules, colors, spacing between elements, textures, shapes, and so on. Use contrast to help create a focal point for the page. In addition to contrast, also use strong alignment and the use of proximity to reinforce your focal point. Don't be afraid to make some items small to create a contrast with the larger items and to allow blank space. Once you pull the reader in with your focal point, they will read the smaller print if they are interested. Avoid using typefaces, colors, rules, images, graphics that are too similar. Make them different to add contrast and visual interest to your page. This is an example of what not to do. Repetition. Repetition of color, fonts, images within a page and from page to page. The combination of repetition and variation creates sophistication without confusion. Use consistent labeling styles throughout. The principle of repetition says you repeat some aspects of the design throughout the entire piece. Repetitive elements may be bold font, a thick rule, a certain bullet, color, design elements, particular format, shapes, spatial relationships, etc. Repetition works to unify all parts of a design. By repeating certain elements of a page, it achieves a visual trick that designers use to control a reader's eye and how the reader's attention moves down or across the page. Strong repetitive elements help organize the page into visual units. Repetition helps to organize, unify, and add visual interest to a page. If a page is interesting, it's more likely to be read. Now here's an example of a design using text and visuals that you have your opinion, but I would say that this honors the CRAP principles. There's a lot of white space. There's contrast. There's also repetition by the use of different fonts. There's contrast with color. There's white space. The Google logo has contrasting bright colors. And there's repetition. There's alignment in that, say on the top nav bar, everything's aligned above that thin blue line. And same thing with under the search box. You've got advertising programs, business solution, about Google, all aligned in a straight line. And then proximity, you've got these different groupings of links put together on the page, like on the right side of the search box, advanced search, preferences, and language tools. Those things all are close to each other. So you have to decide why something should be close to the other and why some things should be aligned and other things shouldn't. There has to be some rhetorical reason for that. Alignment. Choose one alignment and stick to it. Avoid centering. Move elements away from the edges. Nothing should be placed on the page arbitrarily. So when we get into some of the assignments that require visuals, it will be rather disastrous if you put the visual in just to meet the requirement of the assignment. Instead, the visual should help add meaning to the assignment. Be conscious of where you place the elements on a page. Align elements along hard vertical edges. If instead of centering your text, you align the text on the left or the right, the invisible line that connects the text is much stronger because it has a hard vertical edge to follow. Lack of alignment is probably the biggest cause of unpleasant looking documents. Our eyes like to see order. It creates a calm, secure feeling. Alignment helps create unity on the page. Alignment helps connect and unify all the elements on a page, which create an ordered, clean look. Breaking the principle of alignment can be a nice document trick by breaking the reader's expectations. This is an example of what not to do. Another one of what not to do. You can see how everything's crowded here. Not aligned well, confusing, not easy to read. Proximity. Consider the relationship of elements. Don't spread elements around to fill the page. White space is okay. Group related items together so that related items are seen as one cohesive group rather than a bunch of unrelated elements. If there are more than 3 to 5 items on the page, see which of the separate elements can be grouped together. Once you have grouped elements into visual units, make sure you have sufficient white space between those groups. Another example of what not to do.